Hello, David Bradley here. How you doing? Before I get started on my next thing, I'm going to change. I think this is the background. Ah, look at that. Remember, poke 53280, comma, and then the number that you, or corresponding to the number that you want. Black happens to be 0. Now, that is not the best combination. But white and black usually works pretty good. So, why am I here? Excellent question. I've been back to the basement, and I have a 1541. It was in the same box as the 1571, believe it. It was. Now, one thing, I've now connected the serial cord and the power cord that I had on the 1571. Now, one thing to be sure is if you turn something like this on, and it just spins and never stops, that's not good. Now, I really didn't hope that this would be the case. Ugh. But it's spinning. Well, that means this is going to be mighty quick. Because if it's just spinning, something inside one of the chips has gone squirrely, and it could be one of a number of things. But it's not going to do anything. It's actually just going to lock up tight. Lock up tight. Now, let's see. Does the light light up? It does. Does that have any effect? Nope. It just stays on. Now, I know this will make no difference, but I am going to do what I've said many times. I'm going to open 15, 8, 15, quote, I0, quote, colon, close, 15. And it will do nothing. Nothing, 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 nothing. Well, this is not an exciting video to be watching. One thing to be sure, this 1541, which is not the oldest, but it is older, needs a little bit of a face wash, which I will do with, yes, a magic eraser. Actually, this would be, if I had one handy, this would be a good time, even though this is not working, to show you how glorious a magic eraser can be. I have nothing to do with Mr. Clean, but I just know a magic eraser is magical. Alright, so before I forget, this disc should come out of there. I'll turn that off. I'll turn on. It stopped spinning. Okay, it's still not responsive. And it's locked up tight. Well, that's interesting. Mind you, this has not probably been plugged in who knows, 20 years. Maybe more. I'm going to try device 9. Nope. It does definitely seems to lock up no matter what I search for. I'm just going through the device numbers that it would possibly maybe be. And it is not. It is device not present. Great. Great. Grand and glorious. Well, as this is not going well, in terms of being able to do anything without opening this up, and I'm not ready to open things up because I don't have room. Why? Because my table is a mess. A mess. It's a mess. And you know what? Earlier on, I went to go put a Vic-20 down underneath here, and somehow It dropped. It fell. And, you know, these machines are now 30 and 40 years old. And a good smack could be enough to kill. So that was not pleasing. Anyway, I have not brought it, like rescued it to see yet. But let me tell you another story. And this is really, it's nothing to do with any of this, but it's something that happened last night that was interesting. At least I found it interesting. And I found it, well, it all worked out in the end, but let me just tell you the story. We're sitting here watching the Leaf game when this FaceTime thing tries to come up. And I looked at it and said, I don't know who that is. So I said, no. And that was weird, because it came up with a number. And I thought FaceTime was just sort of, well, I guess it's through Messenger, maybe, but also Apple has the FaceTime, I guess, or video or whatever. Anyway, it just seemed strange, so we just ignored it, but then these text messages started coming. And supposedly, whoever this was looking for Derek. This number had been given to them by someone named Jessica. Their name was Josh, and they had drank a whole bunch, and they were somewhere, and they needed to be rescued, and they were cold, and they needed help. So I'm like, well, anyway, I don't know a Jessica. I don't know a Josh. I was like, this is a wrong number. I kept trying to say, this is a wrong number, this is a wrong number. Now, you know what, I probably should have called sooner. But I thought about it for not too terribly long, and I thought, you know, they're in Toronto, I'm not, but I'm not far, and there was no way I was going to find them. But I thought, well, I'll just call the Toronto police, and they can try calling the number, and they can see what's what. But they didn't seem terribly interested. And to me, like, I don't know who this is, I don't know if it's real, but, you know, who knows, maybe it's some 14-year-old kid who got loaded and drunk and is, you know, lying in a bus shelter or in a field somewhere cold and wet and whatever. Anyway, just thought this is, you know, a quick prevention sort of thing rather than have a tragedy. So they didn't seem really interested. They didn't even want to take the phone number from me that had called me. Or not called me, but yeah, they tried to call, FaceTime, and then texted. So I was polite. I was. But I didn't then say, well, you know, I could just, you know, if you don't want to be interested in this. And they went away and talked to a supervisor who seemed not to be interested. I said, you know, I could just call, like, the local news radio station, which in Toronto is 680 News. And I could say, you know, I called the police about this, and they didn't seem interested. So, oh, there's an old phone that just fell down. I'll have to do something about that. Anyway, I could say to the 680 News people, the police didn't seem interested, but maybe this would be an interesting story, that if you went and found this person, and then you could say, yeah, we saved this person, and the police didn't want to. Well, when I told the police that, then they seemed a little more interested, and the guy said a supervisor would call me back. Well, it took a long time, and I should have probably called a number more in between then and stuff, but I talked to her, and it was still challenging. It was. Because really, they didn't, still, she suggested that, because see, I went in what's called York Region, which is not really Toronto, and it's not. So she suggested the thing for me to do would be to call the York police so that they could look at the messages, which of course I said, I can send you the messages. I can, you know, I can do screenshot things and send them to someone in Toronto just as easy as... But anyway, that was her solution. And I don't know if she expected that I would follow through, but I was kind of... I don't know how to put it. I wasn't terribly impressed and thrilled with the response, especially, you know, if it was a kid I knew or my kid who was out there somewhere in distress, and this was going on now. This had probably been an hour and a half from the first message. I'm like, okay. And I know she could hear the sarcasm in my voice. So I said, okay, I'll call York. So I called York, talked to their first person, sent me on to communications, and they seemed kind of baffled about this whole thing, but they said, okay. Anyway, a while later, 2 officers arrived, and I spoke to them, and I told them what was what. And I had, since then, screenshotted the messages, so I was able to send them to the officer, and they said they would check into it. And I thought, well, I'll probably never hear. But lo and behold, around about midnight, my phone rang, and it said, no caller ID, which I know what that means. That means it's the police. And, sure enough, they had indeed found the phone and found the people involved. And not that I was really pleased about this. I didn't want somebody to be lying in a ditch, needing help in a drunken stupor, and, choking on their own vomit or anything. But it ended up, guess what? It was a prank. Randomly, they picked a number out of somewhere and decided, aha, let's call this. So, I guess I got the last laugh in some ways. I mean, I really don't like wasting police time and resources and stuff, but I really thought, like this person said, they needed help. They said they were cold. They said, they were drunk. They need to be picked up, and I had no idea. So, I guess they got a bigger surprise when probably around about midnight, the police came knocking at the door. And I guess probably it was whoever it was, his mother, who answered, and had a little surprise that, gee, they, I don't know how it went down. But anyway, ended up, it was a prank, and I guess they probably had some splaining to do, but I don't think they'll do that again. And, you know what? If it had been somebody who was in distress, really, I don't feel bad for doing what I could to be helpful. Because I would hate to think it was somebody who was really in trouble, instead of somebody who was going to get into trouble. Anyway. So, as I was saying, this disk drive is, well, it's not doing what it did, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So this disk drive is presenting, well, after I turn it off, after it locks up the bus, a device not present error. Now, funny thing is, because it locks up the bus, there are 2 chips in this thing. I think they're the 6522 chip. It's been a while since I've had one of these open. Sorry, maybe 6522 chip. And because it's locking up like that, I'll look at them first. I'm hoping they're socketed. I'm hoping. We'll see. So, we'll investigate this drive at another time further when I have my space cleared off. The other thing I've got to do, and I finally found what I think is a suitable box, is I have to ship a 1701 or 1702, I have to check and see which it's supposed to be, to, it seems, the Northwest Territories, which for those that don't know Canada, it's way up north. Actually, it's north and it's west, and it's a big territory. Imagine. So I finally did find a box that I think is suitable. I will use lots of bubble wrap, like the heavy duty, not the biggest bubbles, just it's very heavy duty and industrial bubbles, if that makes any sense, as much as I can, and I will pack it up nice and tight, and I will get it on its way as soon as I can. I'm really kind of nervous about this, so I will take my time, and I have written to the person and said, I'm on it, and get it there, and hopefully they can fulfill their Commodore dreams. Oh. So, I suppose what I will do is I will return to the basement, and I will get another drive, and it will not be the 2031 LP that's down there, because I don't have an interface right handy to try it with. I don't. So, I won't. I suspect what I will find is another 1541 of the 6 drives that were there. There are 4 left to check out. 3 that I can do, probably right here. So, thank you. Oh dear. Oh dear, excuse me. Oh, yes, thank you very much for coming. And stay tuned, we'll see you again. And yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. So, bye for now.